Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. We've got with us the same panel that we had from last week for our Blood Honey and Jawbreakers review. So everybody, say hello. We got Moonshine, Matsy, Dark Gift, Aldous, Prosthetic Breasts, Twitless, and Cider.
Ahoy!
I don't remember prosthetic breast from last week.
How could you forget?
Those are the kind of prosthetic breasts you get from a nationalized healthcare system.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's getting that socialized medicine. Sweet, sweet free healthcare. Thanks for being here again, guys. So we had a great time last week. It was a dry run for a way to do a large panel review like the one we're going to be doing today. There's going to be a ton of opinions. So everybody better pony up and get out your notebooks. It's definitely going to be flying all over the place.
I'm selling pencils.
And yeah, J Dollar did get his pencil, so we hooked them up. Let's check in with the chat, make sure everybody's comfy and settling in. We've got, of course, J Dollar, who can't resist attention on the stream and off, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah, Wilberforce Wooster, J Dollar bot. We've got Jack Stafford. Ahoy, great to see you. And Kriega, Avast, thank you for being here. Snuggy, thank you very much for joining us. What's up, chat? Great to see you, as always. Apples for apples. Kriega is a liar. Jury's still out. We're not really sure of the verdict there. We got Peter Lucky. What's that? Parker Lucky. What's that? Matt Bird. He's yet to receive his copy. There's been a few people who mentioned that on Twitter. I think a lot of copies are going out. Ethan's got a huge stack of boxes in his house. He's constantly sharing updates, letting people know where things stand. So, I mean, you have a lot to look forward to. And then if you don't want to check out this review, we will have spoilers, just a heads up. You can always wait for your copy to come in, come back, check it out then, or continue to hang out with us and get some opinions in advance. But just so you guys know up front, we will be talking about things in a little bit more detail, since that's the only real way to give thorough impression and have a good, robust discussion about the book. Aldous, good evening. Great to have you on the stream reviewing with us. The Gluminati, Tex Green Game Over, and Linkovich. He's got his little frog out. He's happy. So yeah, KSSS, of course. How can I ever forget? Happy birthday.
Thank God the nipple's off the screen. I was getting very disturbed over here. Jesus.
You like it.
Or aroused.
You voted before we came on. That's it.
They're so small, too.
Oh, man.
It's cold. I got the window open.
Yeah, I can tell it's cold.
He was in the pool, guys. He was in the pool. All right. I guess moving on from shrinkage. Let's maybe hit tonight's topic a little bit faster. We're talking about something that everybody's been waiting for a long time to finally get a chance to cover and discuss. Ethan's Rekt Planet, which is a big major deal in Comicsgate, raised a huge amount of money, 1.2 million. He had follow-up campaigns as well. Almost 12,000 backers. So not too shabby. The book's finally here, guys, and everybody gets a chance to finally have their say and give their opinions. KSSS says, translation in 5 minutes, be prepared for, were you shocked by the deaths of Heather and Salamandroid?
I think you should read the comment well read.
You need to make the reviews for people who can't read.
Just
that's
like
the slot. Yeah, that's the slot I'm here to fill in. I did not read this book. Heads up. So any questions that I might have, they're going to be totally impartial. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I just want the panel to inform me of what they read and what they thought without me steering that conversation in any direction. Jabba the Creator says, F well-read anus and anyone on his panel. Jabba, you are a handsome man. Never knew.
Why is he stealing Elseed's shtick? What's with people stealing people's shticks lately?
Yeah. Nobody's got their own material anymore.
I think he's preparing for that 2024 run. I think that's what it is. He's going political, so he's just going to start stealing everything.
Gotcha.
It's anyone's game.
Twitless is going to be the vice president.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah, it's the Meteor and Jabba co-ticket. It's going to be fantastic.
It's a big hit. Yeah.
I don't know. Twitless or Kamala. I mean, I'm kind of torn, which way to go there.
They are both very well. One's mannish and the other isn't.
Well, yeah, Kamala's got him beat in that department for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Ahmed says, "Can you just tell us the spoiler so I don't buy the book?" I know you're bitter. You didn't get your review copy, Ahmed, but we're not gonna. I guess we're not gonna.
We got our review copy, Ahmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amit, we left you a copy, a free review copy in the back room if you want to come hang out. But
Right.
Why? Don't say that.
Spoiler:
Wait,
the book has a beginning.
that was
and
a
then
joke, Ethan. Don't sue us. That was a joke. Please. Sue us after this review, but not before. All right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Give us a chance to dig our own graves.
Yeah. Precisely.
Well, let's get started, I guess, with the grave digging. First impressions, guys. You get the book. You're going through the pages. You get to the end. What's your first initial takeaway after finally having read Rekt Planet?
Awesome.
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 Okay. Great.
I thought it was a good filler book. That set up the action that's going to come into the third book, and it was like Last of Us episode 3 with no gay stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, big Last of Us vibes. Yeah. Yeah, he took his time a bit more, I think he slowed down. He had dialogue worked, and I think he drew what he was best at, I think, for the whole book. I think the time was well spent for this. So
Yeah, I would concur with that. I thought it was a little bit more of a mature take. There was definitely some evolution that occurred following Blood Honey. But at the same time, I think there's still a little bit ways to go. So.
Yeah, I was to piggyback off of that. I think Rekt Planet is an improvement over Blood Honey in almost every single except one. And the one aspect that it still needs work kind of sticks out like a sore thumb.
Something needs work. I missed the backroom conversation.
There's no outlets for the pop machine or the
Yes. Oh, the soda's warm?
Yeah.
Damn!
Yeah. And it
No.
will give you your quarters back.
Aldous, did you pee on the pop machine? I told you, is that why it's not
We're
working?
watching.
Well, speaking of the back room,
Yes. So I guess with the first impressions out of the way, let's get the writers out of here and give the artist team the floor to have their say.
Especially since last week we didn't really get to talk about it because the writers took over the art spot. Jesus.
Well, we're just a review panel, so now is your chance to have the forum. Guys, give us a quick synopsis. How did the book open, and where did the story progress? And if you can, lead that into how the art developed and served a lot of the story plot points. Prosthetic breasts. Let's start with you
first.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of interesting. He had the bees. There's a lot of conversation, and the early part of the book where the bees were having conversations, you're like, why are they talking so much? And then you end up figuring out why. Like I said, it was a good filler. Set up action for the next book. It's what a story needs.
Wait, hold on, J-Del. You calling this a filler? Generally, a filler is something you don't need. So is that what you're calling?
This is good. It sets character development.
I was just I wouldn't use the term filler.
It lets you see people who are still alive. A bunch of it's like a good character development for someone who was complaining about periodics last week, going into this one, reviewing it from last week, even though it was from years ago. So like I feel like you maybe got 1-2 issues in the first book, and this one you got like a big issue, you know what I mean? And then I had a little mini comic book with CyberFrog chilling, making relationships with with Lily and all of that jazz?
I see it more as like this is like the actual first issue, right? Blood Honey was the catch up. Like it brought you up to speed on the '90s stuff.
Yeah,
If you took
okay.
that last book, because chapters 1, 2, and 3 of Blood Honey, if you took chapter 3 and put it with Rekt Planet, that would be like the full issue 1. Because you're seeing CyberFrog. He's awake now, and he meets up with Heather for the first time in 20 years. He meets the community, the group that she's with. You're introduced to new characters here. You get to see a little action with him, like taking out a couple of Vespas here and there, and you actually see what a Vespas can do to a human. This is literally issue 1 of like the story going forward. I think that's why it's not a trilogy. It's going to be 4 books, right? You had the catch up book, and now we're on book 1, and this is the first part of the trilogy.
Yeah, it's
Well,
definitely a relationship book.
And yet, like he, correct me if I'm wrong. Like I'm trying. Okay, so I reread Blood Honey, and then I went straight into Rekt Planet. So maybe I'm getting this wrong, but he does do the same scene more than once, right? Like he opens this where we're seeing it from Heather's angle, from her perspective of seeing CyberFrog again, right? Whereas I think in part 3 of Blood Honey, we got the same event, right? Where she's like Froggy, but from CyberFrog's perspective. Wasn't that right? Like we got the whole like he meets Lily in the forest, and then Red Riding Hood style, and then sees Heather. We got that twice, which I thought that was kind of a neat. I haven't seen a lot of other people play with that. Visually, it was kind of cool. So
the 2 different perspectives. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was almost like a soft catch up in a way. It's like you haven't had a new CyberFrog in a couple of years, so. Let me have you revisit the important scene, the emotionally impactful scene. But visually, it was done just to speak to the art. It was cool to see that same scene, but redrawn from her perspective, I guess. So.
If we're gonna, since we are talking about the art here, like I said, you get to see what happens to a human when infected by the Vispas, and that scene was drawn really well too. That was
one criticism I would give about that is we saw Ethan drawing that, so maybe he should be more selective of art that he shows later on.
But now to see it in full color in context to the pages was pretty cool.
Yeah, I suppose.
Since some people haven't read the book, we did see what the Vespis did to someone in Blood Honey. So what's different about it?
Yeah. You mean the exploding version?
Yes.
Yeah, the exploding version.
I mean, I know the answer, but you guys can actually answer it.
Yeah. So like, in Blood Honey, you see them kind of like
goo out.
Yeah, this was like legit like time bomb, like in your face, just gruesome. Yeah, it was pretty pretty intense. Yeah, everything, even like the smaller stuff was pretty intense.
Yeah. Did you guys like the now it's like a thing? I feel like it's a thing that Ethan wants us to bite down on, but like he keeps putting stuff in the reflections of CyberFrog that help you anticipate what the following page is going to be, which is fun. Like you haven't seen this page, for instance, when the bunny guy shows up. I was like, I'm not even going to turn the page. Like, I'm going to look in the reflections first and see who's coming at him and see if I can guess. I was like, is the little white dude? Like, who is that? And then I turn the page and then I see the drawing version. It's like he does that several times. So it's like, it's really kind of impressive.
It was cool to see like some of the 90s villains in this too. Yeah. And his artistic take on it now as compared to how he drew them in the past. So that was cool. Because it's way different. I mean, even CyberFrog is different, but he's you know
Yeah.
very similar, but that Scorpion and Sprite were completely, I think, like a total overhaul almost. So
This is going to be his most mature representation of CyberFrog. How do you feel like the way that he, the design for the character, how has that changed, and how is that represented here in this book?
Mm.
It hits back to what I was saying earlier. That this is an episode in the story where you see him forming a relationship with Heather's daughter, and so like there's a lot of relationship building. Like also when the country boy shoots the pig in the back of the head, and she was you know what I mean. Like so, there's a lot of that going on. So
Yeah.
there's hidden shit in there, I would say, but not too much so that I'm sure the writers will have more complaints about what the book should have been in terms of how it was told, but like this is the type of story this is the type of episode and a story that it's not as like atypical, but like it's become a way to tell a story. So like you're also seeing CyberFrog build his relationship with Lily again. I say that, but at the same time, you see the other hillbilly characters of Jersey in a beautiful setting be pretty reckless and ruthless and all that at the same time while he's trying to build a humble relationship with Lily.
I did like how the leader of the group tried to be intimidating, but like had his second fuck up of the issue. Like, so he's apparently not like the most reliable of people, but he's still the leader.
It's that white girl from episode 3 of Last of Us, just why does this person have power? But
right.
You don't even see really much of that so much so that it's going to go into the next book. Like they have to be developed in one way or another.
Like
Heather
the first
should have been
mess up,
pregnant in this book again.
like,
that would have been.
The first mess up, you can kind of almost like understand, because here's this weird creature, just coming out of nowhere, thinking Heather's in trouble or whatever. But the second one was kind of funny,
Dark Gift, do you want to try fielding my question? How was CyberFrog's design evolved in this book? Do you feel like he's matured the character?
From Blood Honey, you mean, or overall? Yeah. From Blood Honey? Yeah, I feel you didn't really see too much action in Blood Honey, like as far as action poses and stuff, but I feel like he's a little he's basically the same, just a little trimmed down, you know what I mean? Like I feel like he resembles more.
Wait, you're saying he's drawn differently in this book?
Not much. He's basically the same, but I just feel like Ethan's having a little more. You
mean like the Kung Fu kick?
Executing like like I don't want to say exaggerating, but focusing in on certain elements of his anatomy just by his movements and poses. You know what I mean?
Man, I wish I knew what you meant. I think it's the same. And why wouldn't it be? He's going to go nuts on detail every time. He's not going to go to 90% and then say that's good enough. I don't think there's any panel that's not, loaded to the gills with detail, which kind of makes it difficult because I think the writing, not to step on the writers, but like I think the dialogue's better here, and there's a lot of really emotional moments in this book. And you know, and CyberFrog's just not, he's not drawn with a, I mean, his eyes are how he emotes, really, I guess, you know. And I guess you get some emotion with the eyes, but you're not going to get as much out of that face as I think you would with other characters, other designs, you know. So it's kind of hard to like have those emotional moments hit as much. The emotion has to happen with the humans and with the dialogue, and then you just read into CyberFrog like, oh, I know how he's feeling, but I don't see it as much. You know, I'm looking at the chrome more, which is fine. That's all right. You know, it can be indirect. It doesn't have to be on his face. It can be something that the context helps you understand, you know, because I can't see him drawing it any other way. But maybe you guys might be picking up on stuff I'm not picking up on. Maybe he is drawing him differently.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong, DG. I'm just saying
No, like I said,
I
don't. He's basically the same design. I mean, it's a different design than the '90s design. It's the same design as in Blood Honey. He's just letting you see more of. I don't know. You're getting to see more of him in certain situations and poses and actions and stuff like that than you.
Oh yeah.
Than you did in Blood Honey. So
that's true.
So I wouldn't say it's necessarily different. It's just different as far as what we've seen so far. You know what I mean? Like you're getting to see like that that scene that Well Red showed before, where he's coming down with his foot. You know what I mean? Right before the one that you were talking about, where that one,
The very first
like
one.
that one there. Like you're getting to see him in
artistic exaggeration. Like
exactly, yeah.
It's meant to be that way.
Yeah, and we get more of what Twitless was asking for in the last review, which is more, I think, you know, like stages of a fight. We get to see more follow through, which is nice. You know, I think Blood Honey had some kind of wild. You know, it was doing some of that stuff which is fine for comics to do, where they'll like an action pose that looks like a poster or something, like a promo pic is a stand-in for like a larger scene. You know, it's like, this is a really awesome panel, and we put some speech bubbles on it, and we got ourselves a scene. You know, it's a little more complicated than that, but that's basically the gist of what sometimes happens in comics. You know, and sometimes it happens in Blood Honey, and I don't remember at any point that happening in this one. Like, it feels like he's thinking about the scene, he panels it out the way the scene needs him to panel it out, and he's not just thinking about, you know, drawing like a, you know, some art that's going to go on a trading card or something, and it's going to double as a panel. You know what I mean? Like, he's prioritizing what the panel demands, which is really it's special.
So would you say the staging for each of the panels is improved from Blood Honey? You get more of a broader visual palette here?
Yes.
It's less. I think there's I don't know, broader visual palette. I mean, it sticks to kind of one. You know, it sticks to the Pine Barrens.
Maybe I misunderstood the question that you asked for, Red.
Yeah. What are you getting at?
What am I getting at? I guess how much variety are you seeing, especially with, like you were saying, poses with CyberFrog, with the designs, with the environment, with the enemies? I mean,
then I stand by my answer. Yes.
Does anything feel static or well-worn territory? Is he retreading anything here, or does it all still feel visually fresh and kind of inspired? Does it feel like he was really clicking on all cylinders, I guess, with each of these pages and panels?
Yeah, no, everything. Yeah, I'm going to still stand by yes. And to elaborate on your elaboration of your question, no, nothing seems stale. Yeah.
I'd say there's less variety of, if by like variety you mean like, you know, here's a city scene, and then here's a country scene, and here's something on a different planet, and then here's a swamp, and you get less of that in this book. But that's because he's going deeper and he's spending. It's longer scenes. It's more impactful stuff. Like he's taking his time more, so you get it's not as broad, but it's deeper, and I think that leads to better storytelling, especially in a second issue. I think you gotta punch people. It's smart to throw all kinds of stuff at people with the first issue, and then I think you gotta pump the brakes a little bit, and then you kind of have to cruise through some important moments with the second, which is what he did here.
This is a good point. WordFab Stream says EVS amped up the detail to ridiculous levels. Kyle must have gone blind coloring that all. The emotion comes from body language and the scene as storyteller, and I can already hear Vicky reeing. Right. So Ethan has the reputation of being hyper detailed in his work. And what was your take there? Did this feel like he spent a lot of extra time, maybe superfluous time, amping up the detail, or was it all serviceable to the story?
It was the point of the book, I think. Like the book opens with basically a beehive and Jersey, and then he goes to the forest where these people are living in a pretty beautiful place. And so you got grime and then beautiful, and you're probably going to see grime again, I would say.
I don't know. I don't think his detail ever serves the story. It just serves the aesthetic. Like it just serves the entertainment value. You know what I mean? But you don't need this. He's not drawing for the story. He's
yes, and it totally makes the story.
Yeah.
You just shot down what the fuck I just said.
No, like those are cool
like,
scenes. I don't need to hear. Like he draws every hair on that little girl's head, like even in shadows. Like,
well, wait a minute. Mike
we're not
Miller
saying that
says
serves the story.
Ethan's the best at drawing hair, though.
It's really good hair. It's just not serving a story. It's just serving your eyeballs, which is fine.
Well, since Well-Read bungled this segue, what do you think about the coloring, Matsy?
And okay, this is. I think I've said only positive things so far.
Yeah, so this is a part that Ethan didn't do. This is Kyle Ritter did the coloring, I presume, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think Kyle he continues to upgrade. Like he's not cruising here, and maybe the fact that Ethan is focusing on a few scenes and taking longer times with that, like lets Kyle, improve those scenes and take his time to make them the best. I got a little tired of the Nickelodeon slime green because it's most of this book, but it's a cool color, so it's fine, I guess. It's amazingly colored. It's just that there's a lot of if you look at just flipping through your book, you're gonna you be excused if you missed if it was page 38 or page 8 or page 58, because most of them are the same coloring, that's like the worst thing I could say, because it's amazingly colored. It's just too consistently colored, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of flat shadows. It's just stuff. It's not in the pin work. It's just like he does that green, and it's everywhere. And
so, what do you think about like the lighting? Because like Kelsey Shannon's great at lighting, and Narwhal, whose art people sometimes don't like, generally people like his lighting. So what do you think? Kyle handles the lighting well, or is Ethan doing most of the work on that regard?
I could tell, when Ethan wants a dramatic shadow, he does that with the inks,
Mm-hmm.
So, and you get that here. I don't think Kyle, I think there were a few panels, this could be one of them, where you might get a bit of dramatic lighting, but he's going to be shiny chrome, any time of day, any time of night, underwater, inside of fire, hiding under the bed. It's going to be the same chrome. So it's kind of the thing at this point after 2 of these books. I couldn't imagine him being drawn without the exact same chrome approach. So I expect it to be colored the same, just with a blue filter. Do you know what I mean? So it's consistent. He's not making Kyle and Ethan aren't doing anything that is breaking. Like they're not setting a standard and then breaking it. Do you know what I mean? And consistency is key, I think. But it would be cool if someone else, like I would imagine, like Kelsey Shannon would do it with more variation. It wouldn't just be that same exact chrome approach, no matter, regardless of the lighting setting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'd have to not look at CyberFrog and look at the rest of the panel to get the idea of where they're going with if it's dramatic lighting or not. Like in this scene, like you could see, like even when the word balloons, there's like a gradient going on.
That's true.
In the word balloons. They're giving you a different visual on like how, like, yeah, this is a dramatic lighting scene because everything else around CyberFrog is also being either saturated by the light or not, you know? So
is it essentially dusk or dawn type coloring throughout? And I don't have a problem with it.
So this is a story question, but what is the time frame of this book? Is it a day? Is it weeks? Or
I would say it has to span the course of like a couple of, like at least a week.
Okay,
it doesn't actually say, but yeah, there's different days, and there's like a time lapse of like him spending time with Lily and stuff. So
is there different times a day you see throughout the book? How does the coloring work with that?
Yes. You got morning and, daytime, afternoon, evening. So,
well, I mean, I guess I hear what Matt's saying, but to me, that's not a issue or complaint I would draw personally.
Yeah.
You're always in the trees. You're always...
you can kind of tell when it's night because there's a lot more red hints in the lighting because there's like fires everywhere. They have like bonfires and torches lit up
and
everywhere.
You're in the trees. So
yeah. There's a lot more red reflecting on even just like on any little thing, not even just CyberFrog. You know what I mean? During the morning scenes, there's a lot more whites and yellows, and during the midday scenes, I would say that it's like your typical like what you saw like in Blood Honey. You know.
So. Matt mentioned the chrome mouse. Does the chrome ever like get dinged or scratched or dulled in like battle or anything like that?
In that last battle, yeah.
Does it? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you don't have to go into the story details, but does like his appearance change? Does the shininess dull?
I wouldn't say the shininess dulls, but you do see like drawn in impacts and stuff.
I think the tone is different. The tone is different towards the end when he gets fucked up. So there is because they're in the swamp or a river or a creek or whatever. You know what I mean? So you're out of the tree at that point, and you're in a small clearing. So there is a different, and then the final pan. So I believe there is. I think there is.
Yeah, like I just mean this, like I don't want anyone to misconstrue. Like, Vicky, make sure you clip this too. Like, the point of comics isn't just to do something realistic; it's to make it enjoyable to read. And obviously, the most enjoyable way to read CyberFrog is when he's chromed out, no matter what's going on. Obviously, that's the coolest. It's the most fun way to draw them. It's the most cool way to read them. So it's fine to do that. It's part of the illusion of comics is to push that. If you wanted a movie, you could have a movie, but comics are going to do a different thing. So
Jabba is asking for Twitless to come on now.
Yeah.
So before we bring him on,
sorry, Jabba.
Is it okay if I just elaborate a little bit on my point I was trying to make earlier?
Oh, Jesus.
I'm not.
You
I'm
have
not,
a point well read. Are you sure?
I do kind of. I don't feel. I'm not defensive about it.
Ask
at
it
all.
differently. Ask it differently.
Okay, so let me give you guys an example. So, Aliens, for example, and those amazing evocative designs from H.R. Geiger for the aliens, a lot of that served to create atmosphere for those stories. And here, CyberFrog is a techno-organic design. So you have to have hyper-detailed cybernetics because you're trying to blend them with an organic setting. And I don't know how you can draw something that is an amalgam of both unless you add the same level of detail for both the environments and the settings and the people, as well as the cybernetics.
Yeah.
And so for me, I feel like just like for the alien design, the Gothic, very eerie approach that was used for those characters, for CyberFrog as well, you have to have somebody who's hyper detailed drawing him to be able to make it work so that you feel immersed into that story. So that's that's kind of the point I was making, or I was hoping to discuss anyway. So.
We answered your question.
Yeah.
I thought I answered your question. Like the whole Matt was actually complaining that it's too dark in the trees. So you know what I'm saying? So
It's too green in the trees. I was tired.
oh my god,
CyberFrog is green. Why is his background
Yeah, I think
green?
we answered the question rather well, Wilbur.
He needs to
All right, fine.
He blends into the
Just bring
background
in
too
the
much.
writers. The
I'll kick
artists don't know how to
myself.
speak, so.
Goodness gracious.
I
All right, guys.
love you.
Bye-bye.
I don't know who to kick. Okay, Nancy, prosthetic breast, and Target. You guys are throwing me off my game.
Have a game.
Enjoy the warm
Oh,
soda back
jinx.
there.
Yeah. All right. And Snuggy makes a good point. Alien wasn't Geiger; it was Crumb. My bad. All right, writers.
This
so
is
you've
what
heard-
happens when you put the art guys first, man. The chat's angry. You're all confuddled.
Well, you guys are here to soothe the savage beast. So please
First,
sing us
can
your
you
swan
guys
song.
define filler for me?
Cider, what do you take that one?
Wait, hey,
Why?
first,
I didn't say it.
right. before we go anywhere, congratulations today to 2000 AD. It's their 46th birthday. So hats off to those guys for a very gritty and very British comic book.
All right, just in time for a prostate exam.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So you've heard from the artists. Now let's delve into the story a little bit. This is Ethan's second run at independent writing in the crowdfunding
It's his second
arena.
leap.
Yep, his leap forward. Give us your take. We just reviewed Blood Honey last week. Was this a quantum leap or was this a hop on the lily pad? I'll just leave that hanging there until somebody picks it up.
Were you going to direct that at anybody in particular, or do you want us to just, create a cacophony of echoes?
Cider, the savant, the genius. Please give us your take. How far has Ethan come in this book?
I would say that this is 100% better than Blood Honey. There was a clear idea here. There's a clear mission. There's a clear railroad or roadmap, if you will, toward where CyberFrog ends up after the conflict even. So I think that Ethan set out to create, I wouldn't say some magnum opus thing, but he dug down to tell a narrative that meant something to him. And then, if you don't know this, Stephen King used to write really shitty sci-fi books until his teacher told him, stop writing about this stuff you don't know and write about stuff you do know. And so throughout the book, we kind of get like a salt and peppering of Ethan's personal experiences sort of mingled in with CyberFrog's in a much more fluid and controlled way, in my opinion. And in this way, CyberFrog matures from that 90s character into a 2000s self-reflective character that maybe isn't doing the whole I'm going to change for the future thing, but is doing his best to adapt. And I think that tells a way better story than what Blood Honey really just kind of kicked off,
Yeah,
Do you
I would
agree?
agree with. I would agree with a little bit of that. There's definitely some cuscable aspects to this, but overall, it's a much, like I said earlier in my initial statement, it's a much more mature work. As far as the writing goes, I'm going to disagree with some of the art guys, and I'm going to say I thought overall the art was a little bit more as pedestrian as Ethan can get. There were some panel choices that I thought were a little questionable. There's some where he angles some panels that was kind of repeated. It wasn't as artistic in its formatting as Blood Honey, but it works better with the story. And I thought that when I say mature, it's not just the writing, it's the whole work. There's still a couple things that are misses, I thought, but overall I thought it was a solid, a much better balance of the two than Blood Honey.
Twitless, would you like to give us a synopsis, actually, just to set the conversation? What's the story that takes place in Rekt Planet?
So this is a world where the Vespers have conquered the Earth. They've invaded it, conquered it, and one small community is trying to eke out an erstwhile existence. They have a mantra, essentially: stay in the trees, stay near the smoke, never panic, and always wear red. And that's kind of what's been keeping them, they think at least, has been what's been keeping them alive. The return of CyberFrog kind of throws everything into chaos. And he realizes that he's here to stop this invasion. In the meantime, he also, as has been mentioned earlier, he connects with Heather Swain and Heather Swain's daughter. And a lot of the story, it kind of deals with their relationship. And then, of course, looming all over that is not just drama within the community, but also the invading, colonizing, existential threat of these intergalactic parasitical wasps.
Okay. And how did you feel that it sounds like people were saying it's The Last of Us? Is it Walking Dead as well? What was the tone throughout the book?
It's got a little bit of a horror tone, but the thing for me that I'll say is that this book made me separate writing into two categories: the storytelling, and then the I guess I would say the scripting for the conflict. So the conflict writing. And because the storytelling in terms of lore building, character writing are all improved from Blood Honey. The elements flow together pretty well. There's some examples like where one character is talking about a particular element, and then it kind of thematically transitions into us learning something about CyberFrog. There's a little bit Ethan actually dials back a little bit, allows for the story to show rather than tell, which actually allows for a little bit of subtlety.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. So he's so all of that is working way better. I would even say that in terms of not to go too far into the art, I found the sequencing to be stronger in this particular book. There's some symmetry in some of the double page spreads that I appreciated. There's some effective usage of montage and the handling of time. So the relationship between CyberFrog and Lily, Ethan used the art form of comics to actually, develop a time span where it's like, oh, hey, it's not just I met you and 5 seconds later we're connected, which is what Lost Souls did. Here it's actually, hey, I can use the strengths of comics, which is to use gaps between panels, gaps between pages to imply the passage of time. He's using that much more deftly. There's even some splash page images that he's using much more effectively. Blood Honey had, in my opinion, too much pinup art, where it was just like big splash image and then just like not a lot in terms of what that contributed to the story. But there are some images. There's a Heather Swain piece in particular, if you want to go to the next page that you have pulled up there.
No,
okay.
We're gonna for Cider. Did anything happen though?
I'm sorry.
We're gonna answer Perth's question.
Oh, okay. Did anything happen though in the comic?
Cider's gonna answer it.
Oh, okay.
Did anything happen? Yeah, a lot of stuff happened. Like that guy got beat up and that other guy exploded, and then CyberFrog ripped that other guy's like metal skull out of him, and then the guy got stabbed and shot. They shot CyberFrog.
Yep.
A lot happened.
Yeah.
He
Thank
gets
you,
shot
Cider.
and then stung, and then a bunch of other stuff happens.
Okay.
Look how annoyed Twitless is. Yes,
Things happen.
I don't care. I just
Things
want to go
happen,
into
they
the
do.
story details.
Twitless wants to talk about the allegory.
To reinforce kind of what Twitless was talking about letting the art kind of flow into the story and lead the story a little bit better. It occurs within the first few pages, and he shows the famous love sculpture that's in Philadelphia, and then you turn the page and he says, Philadelphia. And that's kind of repeated several times, where he lets the art tell you where you're at, and then he reinforces it on the following page. I like seeing that. That's a nice step, but it's almost too heavy-handed. It's almost he's going too far in the other direction a little bit. As far as the writing goes, there's some excellent callbacks. He did a little, whether he did it intentionally or unintentionally. I appreciated the Lynn von Krenfeld references. That was a nice touch for fourth generational warfare and the transformation of war. With regards to what Scorpion was talking about at one point.
On Krevel?
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
But and then I loved the brief moment that Scorpion had. I liked the slow play of Scorpion versus the impulsiveness of CyberFrog contrasted. That was a nice touch. And again, these are all things that reinforce that more mature dialogue and structure that I felt. I still think it could be, better. I think it should have been a little bit better, but there's definite improvement over Blood Honey, and it's anything but laconic as well. And I did appreciate that. There's a little bit of there's a lot of contrasts that you can make between characters, and it's real fast. He doesn't really set up a lot of these contrasts, like between Colin's realism and the childhood egotism of CyberFrog. And the blatant over the top messaging around the middle of the book got to be a little too heavy handed. He was really deft with his messaging up to a couple of certain points. I mean, right up to the point where there's a line that's "be better," and it's just that was with the Vespas, and it's just it's a little too heavy handed with what he's trying to do for the overarching illusion and metaphor. So.
Well, I wanted to say one thing because I definitely want to talk about that, but I did want to say one thing regarding just wrap up some thoughts regarding sequencing before jumping into that, because sequencing does pertain to writing and storytelling. I really like what Ethan is doing on pages like this, where he's leaning into using splash kind of pinup kind of posing, but then in the background using the page landscape to also do sequential narrative at the same time. I think it's a very effective marriage of those two techniques, as opposed to just having one static image that takes up the entire thing. So definitely more of this, and in my opinion, less of just because there's a spread later on where it kind of felt like a bit more wasted space. It's just a big spread and then not much happens. And then if you're going to promise a double page spread, I definitely want to see the follow through in terms of an action scene that does justice to justify that double page spread. And there was a couple of moments that didn't happen. So I was a little let down by that.
God forbid I agree with you, but God damn it, I'm agreeing with you. The page 36, 37 double page spread, I thought it should have been inverted. I thought that was a little bit of a miss because it starts off with wide shots and then it goes in and then you get a full half page of Heather's face. I thought for tonally that should have been inverted. And there's just a couple of moments like that. And I think a lot of that gets down to preference on just kind of whether are you more of a film guy or are you more of a sequential storytelling guy. For the art alone, I think it probably worked maybe the way Ethan did it. But I really thought reading it should have been flipped. The spite page reveal was beautiful, both in context and the double page itself, but the fight was really disappointing. And that's kind of the overarching thing in here. There's like 4 or 5 action beats that feel like they're set up really well and then with great reveals, and then it peters out. You don't get that cash out for this great reveal.
And that's a consequence. I would say that's a consequence of Ethan's chosen high fidelity art style, because in order for him to do justice to an action scene that would go for maybe 4 or 5 pages, he has to then render, because that's the way he's chosen to do the work.
Hold on a minute. So can you tell us who Spite is?
An old villain from CyberFrog. So anyone who's familiar with CyberFrog is going to kind of recognize.
So what is he doing in this scene? But how does he relate to this story?
He's connected to the Scorpion kind of interjection. So basically, you have the major existential threat of the Vespis, but then you have CyberFrog's old rogues gallery, and they're interspersed in this book, and kind of like what they're doing and how they relate to the Vespis, and kind of like, you know, are they going to be helping CyberFrog? Are they going to be playing them against each other, which is kind of what I feel like at least some of the villains will be doing. Are they part of the survivors? And you kind of get, I think, examples of, you know, those different approaches. So spite is just kind of one of those.
I guess then going to the fight sequences that you guys were touching upon. So what is it about those that didn't work for you?
So here's the thing, right? If you set up a fight scene with huge, big cinematic panels and splashes, okay, here's this big fight with a character you may recognize. Maybe we show him in a double, which is with spite, it's like a double page spread to introduce, oh my gosh, here he comes and he's charging, right? So the expectation on the reader is, oh, this double page spread just to introduce this character, this fight's going to be a banger. And you're expecting, I mean, what would you guys say? 4 or 5 pages, you know, to at least kind of like play out that fight scene to do it justice, to a double page spread intro, something like that?
Yeah, if not longer. I mean, there's a lot of pages of heavy exposition that really aren't needed, that kind of drag this down. And like for the spite fight in particular, that could have gone on for another page. Easy.
It goes on for 7 panels is what we currently have.
It could have gone on for at least another page, and it could have been a little bit more engaging, because it's just like, oh, there's a fight and CyberFrog wins. It's just it's over so fast that and I understand that there's a point to that, and it shows that, like, look, he took care of this character so easily, but he has issues with the Vespis later on. But it felt to hit an action beat and then immediately go into more exposition just didn't work. And the page too, I don't know. Are we doing spoilers here? Well read. Can I really?
We are. Yep.
Okay.
Go
So,
for it.
Scorpion sends Spite out so that CyberFrog can get the download, so he can listen and understand what the Vespis are saying. And the fight ends immediately. And in like panel 2, you've got downloading tech. And by panel 4, it's already all downloaded. Like, that really should have been spread out over the course of a fight, where one of the Tendrites comes out and grabs a hold of CyberFrog while they're fighting. And that download becomes a pacemaker as that fight occurs. And then once it's all downloaded, Spite doesn't care anymore. He's accomplished his mission at that point.
So I could go for that, or don't show me Spite as a reveal, as a double page spread that gets me amped up to expect more than what I get, is what I would say.
So this is a specific sequencing, but how would you say in general the pacing is? Is every page a page turner? Or does it get bogged down?
It gets bogged down.
Overall, I would say the sequencing is an improvement over Blood Honey. Like
it is, but it gets bogged down with the narrative.
Is an improvement over Blood Honey. I do have one big gripe, and it is we've kind of talked a little around it, but I don't know when you want to get to it. But the allegorical writing here was a huge miss for me.
No. Well, why don't you guys talk about the pacing first?
Okay.
Because Eldest told us, but we only got one word in.
All right.
No, go ahead, Twillis. Continue.
Like I said before, I mean, I think the sequencing is an improvement, because in Blood Honey, there were sequences where CyberFrog was like fighting the Vespis, and it's like, oh, this is like 2 pages of a fight sequence, and felt like a lot was pulled out. Whereas here, when CyberFrog fights the Vespis, we get to see the beginning, middle, and end of a fight. You can actually see like that kind of like happening, beginning, middle, end. Depending on how you relate, or how you may respond to the scenes in the community, how he's relating to people, you may say that gets bogged down. I kind of enjoyed those. I felt like those developed the relationships pretty well, especially with Lily. There's one page that's not just a montage of time passing. It's also kind of a callback to Bill Watterson's Calvin and Hobbes. It was very cleverly done. And so just the flow is just much improved. So I personally didn't see as much bogged down. So that we'll have to have Aldous walk us through.
I disagree completely with the Watterson callback.
Oh, really?
Tonally, it was a miss for me. I hit that page and was like, wait, what? Like, we're building up all of this, and then we're gonna have this lighthearted moment. I kind of get it. I don't think it was handled in the correct way. If you're going to do that, I think it should have been a double. So it's almost like a breakout. Full double page spread, do scenes in that style. I think that would have probably worked better. Overall, I keep on going back to the Blood Honey thing. It's better than Blood Honey, but it still has that same Blood Honey moment where it's not full on Bendis, but there's neo Bendis moments where you're chugging through a lot of dialogue that just isn't needed.
So you're talking about like the scene where CyberFrog like meets the community and he has a whole bunch of text boxes where it's almost this sort of like noir-esque, and I'm responding like this, and here's what I'm thinking in my mindset as I respond to these people.
And that's just it. You've got both the narrative structure and the dialogue structure, and they're interspersed. And I think it's like 4 or 5 pages overall throughout the course of maybe the mid-center of the book. What it does is you've got multiple ramp up moments, and then you kind of plateau, and you plateau for about 12 pages emotionally, and not a whole lot goes on. And interspersed within that, you've got this 1 page of this Watterson moment that's touching, but it's touching, but out of place. Like you wouldn't expect to hit it at that point. And it feels shoehorned in a little bit.
I liked the shoehorned in effect. It was kind of, and I kind of, maybe just because you're right, it is weird, and it was kind of like a sort of, and now for something completely different. But I don't know, maybe it's just because I really like Calvin and Hobbes, so maybe maybe I'm biased towards that. But
yes, because no one else likes Calvin and Hobbes. I couldn't possibly enjoy Calvin and Hobbes.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, it
Fuck
really just
that stuffed tiger.
Yes, so. Who cares? Calvin and Hobbes is in there, but do we care about the community? Does this matter, or do we care about so we don't? Is it
no? And honestly, that's one of the misses. You've got Colin, who's kind of the leader of the community, and he sets up with a really realistic, positive outlook, a prepper almost outlook, if you will. And when he's when he's talking to CyberFrog, he goes ahead and he makes an error. And it just doesn't fit. It feels so forced. And there's multiple moments like that where it just feels like the dialogue is being structured around propping the hero up. And it just, that didn't work. And then there's a couple moments with the Vespa that didn't work. Like I mentioned earlier with the Be Better. It feels like we've got one line that we want to use.
Be better.
Yeah. And we're working towards that. And the narrative structure, be damned. We're gonna hit that line because we really want to use that line, and that's where Twitless's earlier allusion to the themes just becomes a little heavy-handed. It's better than Blood Honey, but it's still definitely there. What I would like to see is, yes, you should still see those themes because that's something he certainly wants, but you don't want them to be this obvious and evident. And it feels that there's still a little bit of room to grow.
Okay, Cider, do you agree with this, or do you think the Walking Dead focus on the community over the threat is a good storytelling method?
Today, I think it's a good storytelling method. A lot of modern readers, folks that are engaged in popular culture and not just one or the other end of it, usually go through a story with an emotional rudder, if you will, as opposed to a logical rudder. And so while the battle and the constant fight against the Vespus would be dazzling and fun to look at, it would mostly feel like cotton candy. Melt in your mouth, you're done, you never quite get enough, but you end up with diabetes afterwards. This way, you slow down the story, and like I said earlier, it establishes what happens after the fight. If CyberFrog survives the war or not, the coming war, Red Extinction, and then the final push there to push the Vespus off Earth. If he survives that, what was set up with this community is what happens after that. And that's what this story really stresses on with the community, is not so much introducing you to who does what and why and what they're doing here and how their families are attached. It's mostly laying the groundwork for what is CyberFrog fighting for and what is he going to come home to. There's a very good, I think it's with the soccer, during the soccer scene. He's asking himself, is there still time for us? I forget the the dialogue, but he has like Heather and Lily are part of the sequencing where he's like, is there still possible for us to be a family? Not like he wants to be her dad or whatever, even though that's alluded to. CyberFrog is looking for a future at this point where, to my recollection, this is the first time. The character's been reactive, to my knowledge, in his history. He hasn't been proactive in the sense that he wants something outside of the fight other than chicken. So
is there also kind of a limitation since they're out in the forest? You're like missing all these landmarks of destruction in Philly. Does that feel missing? Someone was bitching.
I did not.
No,
I did
no.
not. No. In fact, telling a story about a more intimate community where you can develop, at least, even if the community itself is not as well developed in some places, there are certain key relationships, particularly Lily, Heather, to a lesser degree, maybe Colin, focusing on a smaller scale. This is the problem that the MCU has been making increasingly lately, I think, where it's like, no, everything has to be cosmic level, like the universe is at stake. What you find as a storyteller is that the stories where a personal relationship is at stake, people get far more interested in that because they can relate to it more than the moon's going to explode. So focusing on a small community of people and specific relationships there was definitely the right direction to take. And you do get a couple of, and it also allows for future installments to explore more, and it keeps you eager to go, ooh, I can't wait to see another landmark that we get shown that the Vespas have, like, colonized or something. So that, no, I did not feel that way at all.
Well, so it went more intimate, but then also the exposition you said didn't work. So
I was all I think it was I'm less, see, I'm used to extremely wordy writers, so it doesn't bother me as much. I noticed it here and there, but I was like,
third opinion. Cider, did you also have that take about the exposition about the community, that it just didn't fit with the cosmic scale of the story?
No, I didn't, because while the opening narration of of Blood Honey specifies space, CyberFrog's entire lifestyle, existence, worldview, idea of himself is based in New Jersey. It does not extend to Africa. It does not extend to the moon. Everything that is involving CyberFrog's pre-Comicsgate history is centered in New Jersey, tri-state area stuff. This cosmic level explanation stuff would feel out of place for a character that's street level. Again, let me borrow something from Marvel. Take Daredevil, early Daredevil, where he's just hanging out in Hell's Kitchen all the time, beating the ass off of mafia guys. Bang, he's in the middle of Secret Wars. What? Hold on. What's blind guy with batons doing fighting Dr. Doom? The hell is this? And that's how it would feel if you dropped CyberFrog right into like a Star Wars space opera scenario.
The difference there is in Blood Honey, it is very clearly painted off that he is created and organized for this exact reason. And it just feels off that you have any kind of disassociation with the global context of the world. That there should be a little bit more draw in there. And I'm confused as well. I understand your point, but I'm confused as to how that addresses the point of this one enclave and its reference within the greater exposition context.
If I may, I really think it's to do with giving CyberFrog a reason to fight, to clarify for the audience that it's not just Heather, it's not just Lily, that these people are afraid, and it's being used as like a microcosm to explain how the other humans are living. Because as you can see during the story, there's no group of punks going around Molotoving the Vespas bases. They're all hiding,
And I get that, but I think that can be handled in a lot fewer pages than what it's handled in.
Again, I mean, this wasn't a work of art. I'm not saying that. It's
you really plateau for that long period of time. You've got multiple pages that are spent associating with this group of people that I get it. I understand what you're saying, but I think I think it just kind of it rubs the wrong way on the tone of the book, because you ramp up and then you have this long emotional plateau where there's no growth and it's just establishing.
What do you mean no growth? There's definitely growth between these relationships, even if it's growth in terms of characters who, like Colin and Dystopia, who are growing more and more weary of CyberFrog's presence. There's definitely development between the key relationships. You have Colin, you have Heather, you have Lily, and there is a kind of a beginning, middle, end kind of arc for both, I would say.
Okay, I don't see it that way. I view that as we're getting caught up in the weeds. And yes, you're right; those relationships exist, but they're tertiary to the issue. It's we ramped up to a certain point and then we went low. We should have continued to gone high. We went high up to that point and then we went low with our relationship structure. And I think it would have been a much better arc to just kind of touch on that and continue on with the story. And maybe everybody's going to take it a different way. I get that. But for me, that's what I took it, is that it just kind of, it plateaued and it dragged a little bit.
Well, I disagree.
Well, there's a shock.
Yeah, there we go. No, all right, so I do want to talk about the thing that really bugs me with this book, which is the allegorical writing. And we've kind of, circled around it a bit, but this story is on the freaking nose regarding it being it's a one-to-one allegory in several places of Ethan's life and his journey as an artist, and his journey through being canceled. There are direct references to his cancellation arc. Like if people have listened to his YouTube streams and you've heard about the moment where he said, I think he said, was it kill yourself to somebody? And they use that as the impetus to kind of edge him out of DC. That is specifically almost, I think, word for word utilized here to set up parts of the conflict here. The way the Vespis react to things, the way they pull quotes straight from, Cider pulled some straight from Twitter, actually. And the end result of this is that I keep on being, I'm sold. I'm sold on this basic story of wasps being an existential threat. You got me. I like it. And CyberFrog fighting it. But I keep getting pulled out of the story to keep getting reminded that this actually happened to Ethan and this thing actually happened to Ethan. And the relationship between him and Lily is patterned on the relationship he may have in his own family at points. And the relationships between him and the community it's literally called the community at certain points. And it's like, well, I can't see any parallels between that and a community of creators that, that we have here. And it's just like, just stop. You can use the difference between allegory and symbolism here, I think, is worthy to discuss, because symbolism is where you lightly dress your story in some of these things, and then the reader can kind of go and kind of infer these elements. But allegory is where it's like one-to-one, on the nose. And I kept getting yanked out of the story. It's like, oh, I'm reading a story now. Oh, I'm reading it's almost like a memoir almost. And that's kind of fascinating, but it kept on detracting from this story about a frog fighting an alien invasion, because there's literally references to Vox Day's SJWs always lie, direct references to it, and including, I think, the first rule, which is SJWs always lie, and
which comes from the arch enemy is the other thing. That's the arch enemy that now we're allies in some weird way. That does play into it something, and it muddies the waters a little bit in how the framing goes. I don't know.
That's the thing that stuck out like a sore thumb to me, because like I said, the writing in terms of lore, world building, character relationships, all improvements from Blood Honey. I was much more invested in what was going on, but every time that it was like, this is yanked straight from. And I get you should write what you know, but like writing directly from your life into the character was a huge miss for me. It kept on pulling me out of the story. So I want to get invested in the world of CyberFrog, the character and his relationships with the characters, and not with the fact that this is a allegory for our fight against the invasion of the SJWs. And that kept on happening.
Did you feel personally attacked, Twillis?
What did you think, Cider? You're invested in the
I noticed
war.
Twillis did not answer that question.
Did I feel personally attacked? No, of course not. Why would I feel personally attacked? Oh no, there was this,
Everything is a personal attack on Twitless. So
there was a reference to twit, wasn't there?
Yeah, exactly. There was the word twit showed up, and then I think someone there was a reference that said that darn fence sitter or something. So Dark Gift and I got both put on blast. We're blown out forever.
Cider, what did you think of the culture war references here?
Well, that one quote from Heather Antos really kind of, as soon as I read it, I was like, wait a minute, that's what Heather said. And I had to go look, and sure enough, that's what she said. So that took me out of the story really quick there at the when that happened. And when it comes to allegory and symbolism, I kind of got lost with what Lily is up to in this. I wanted to understand what vehicle she was, what she was trying to be in the story. At one point, and again, if I'm overstepping my boundaries, I apologize. At one point, I felt like Lily is sort of a symbol or allegory or some type of way of Ethan describing his early life with Ava, and being like learning how to talk to her when she was a baby and sort of like that, because there's sort of those bonding moments with a young child there. And of course, the Power Ranger shirt was not lost on me. I immediately noticed that. So thanks. I appreciate that wink and nod. But I was confused about that because for me, she seems like Comicsgate at the same time. Like there's this person who's adverse to CyberFrog being in her home, which is Comicsgate. When you break that down to what's happened, if you take Lily as the vehicle of Comicsgate, the symbol for Comicsgate, is she's uncomfortable with CyberFrog being in her home. Well, and OGCG was uncomfortable with Ethan being around. And then he earned his place in OGCG's heart by like beating the fuck off the SJWs right on Twitter, right in front of everybody, then taking it to YouTube for the victory lap. So in a way, I got a little confused on what that was supposed to mean. That was the biggest miss for me, is what we were supposed to kind of infer from Lily, especially when she went into the tunnel looking for her biological father and then got captured by the Vespis, I presume, because she ended up with them, and then crying dad to CyberFrog as she was at that part of the story. She was crying dad to CyberFrog.
So Jay Dollar, do you think any normie would notice these allegories, or is it?
No, I don't think so at all. The one of the reasons to prove that fact, in my investigative lens, is he has over 12,000 orders, and he barely can get 1,200, 1,300 views on his YouTube channel at any particular time. So not everyone is so heartstruck on the things that, or like the things that Ethan has gone through, so much so that they can associate what he went through with this story. So it's maybe that's the case. I didn't really get that so much. So of course you use your experiences, but I don't believe the amount of people who like Ethan and buy Ethan's book for Ethan Van Sciver's name far outweighs the amount of people who
that's not the
watch
point
him
of
live. So
that's not the
like
point of
to say those people know everything that like only we really know because we're nerds like we do, like all of what Twitless said. Not everyone knows what Ethan has gone through in that respect.
because that's only half my point. So
Well,
the other half,
just shut up for a minute, Willis.
All right,
so based off of that, though, I would assume you shouldn't we see more backers for Dark Harvest then?
What's Dark Harvest?
Dark Harvest is his current campaign.
Oh, no, not necessarily, because if you look at his collectibles books, they didn't really sell too much. You know, they sold a decent amount. His hardcore backers for sure bought them. I didn't buy all of them. I only bought issue 3 or 4, the one with Creed on it. So, and I haven't bought any of his previous hardcover things because unless they're like books, like hardcover books for like nonfiction information, for sure. But I'm not. So like and I don't buy his toys.
Okay, so I need to answer that, since this point's getting, since my point is getting, attacked here, I need to respond to this. Okay. So the issue here is not just the personal in his life. Okay. So that's half of the issue. Okay. Which I did bring up. The other half is the fact that this is Ayn Rand levels of subtext. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you're familiar with Ethan's level of life writing. Okay. The simple fact of the matter, Oh, it's not. It's just
But you
Atlas
just said it
Shrugged.
did. You just said all of it did. Now
Freaking
you're back.
Atlas Shrugged with when the bugs start talking. It's basically I was hearing the ghost Divine Rand, and I actually kind of like Atlas Shrugged to a point, but again, it
Atlas
does
Shrugged
draw you
sucks.
out.
Oh my
That's
God.
okay.
Jay
That's
Dalla
great.
is correct.
That was.
But the level of subtext,
Feeling personally
here
attacked here.
reaches that level, and it takes you out of the story because it's just like, oh, this is a moment for the enemies, the SJWs, to essentially just be representative on a 1-to-1 level.
Okay,
Of
so
what
let's
these things are.
Yeah,
take
but
that,
there-
take that to
there
the
was-
nth level then, and tell me who's the Ellsworth Tui. And
The-
if you're going to draw the Rand comparison, what's the Ellsworth Tui comparison?
Okay, I didn't say
That's the
say
foil.
it's not an allegory for Atlas Shrugged. It's an
No,
allegory
but if you're going
for
to draw that,
SJWs.
go
Yeah.
full
Well-
circle and
well,
make the literary reference. You
Don't
get the
use my
literary
example
reference.
that I
Li-
used.
li-
Use that
literally,
example of what I
the
said.
old-
The Lord bug. The Lord bug is where it's literally like I am using quotes directly from things in life, things that would be recognizable. When the line that you said, the "be better," all of these things are very well known in the cultural zeitgeist to be SJW lines.
Well, yeah, they
So it's-
literally came out of Heather Antos, out of her thumbs as she's typing this in 2017 to people that she's
But-
canceling.
But
Yeah.
the citers
all I'm saying is that when we hit that level of allegory, it takes me out of the it's at cross purposes and takes me out of the story of, oh, this is a frog fighting aliens. Instead, I am paying attention to the fact that this is a representation of the culture war.
The only part that really like pulled me out was where they all echoed "sorry that happened to you."
Yeah, sorry
like
that happened to you.
on
Sorry
Twitter.
that happened to you.
That
It's
was
like-
the only part that I was like I saw the "be better" and I saw, and like that's all. That didn't really bother me so much. But I wouldn't even say that the "sorry that happened to you" bothered me, but it did kind of make me stop and go, "Oh, that's totally like just SJW representation there." I laughed.
They're worker bees. They're
I laughed at it.
That's what they do. And what I was going to say,
Right. I understood.
Your example was actually a good example. This issue number 2 is a good issue number 1 to introduce slowly, as what you were saying earlier. So,
Oh yeah, this is the actual issue 1 of this story. The Blood Honey was just a catch up for everybody who may not have read the 90s stuff.
yeah.
I'm not saying you
know.
can't make culture references. What I'm saying is when they're this on the nose, it pulls you out. It pulls you
Okay,
out.
let's
And,
watch this video.
multiple people got pulled out.
to see this culture.
Well,
reference.
I
Oh,
can't. I don't think I can show this.
You can play it.
Can you put it on silent and we'll yell over
Yeah,
it?
you
How
can
about
mute it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, J Dollar yell at me for
Can I-
5 minutes.
Can we instead of trying to prove Twitless wrong or right, can we talk about okay, so he's doing an allegory, but it's very from Ethan's perspective, right? It's very ground level. It's like autobiographical allegory. It's not just there are other people.
All right, Matt, hold on. We need to explain what's going on screen for people who don't know. This is the soy bomb
God.
incident, which happened during the 1998 Grammys. Bob Dylan was performing a set, and this guy just comes out. He was hired to be one of the background dancers and just do little movements in the background. He tears off his shirt, runs up on stage right next to Bob Dylan. It has soy bomb on his chest. And I think around a few minutes in, the camera pans and like someone escorts him off stage. This moment is the moment that Ethan cites multiple times as being the impetus for the Vespis invading Earth. This is not just a symbolic moment. This is a plot referenced moment. And I think it actually might tie into Sider's truck bomb theory at some level, perhaps.
And it plays into allegorical, like this is the moment when humanity signaled to the Vespis that they were so tired, like civilization had ground to such a halt that it was willing to answer the call and calibrate that particular moment to be the signal to invite an invasion because humanity was that I guess exhausted,
Decadent.
right?
I think
Or that,
KSS
yeah.
brings up an excellent
decadent.
point here.
I drank too much
He
box
just
wine
felt
that day. Plot twist: Soy Bomb Guy is actually a young, well-read. He was young and experimenting with drugs and sexually. Thank you.
He was an I think he studied like postmodern literature. He's big into.
I was
about
high
that.
on way too much Ayn
You're
Rand,
just
and I
talking
just
about
had to
knowing
rip
too
my
much
shirt
about
off.
things. And then you went on
See,
about some guy without a shirt.
Now, with this whole like allegory debacle or debate or
I
whatever.
hate that word, by the way.
I know. I'm sorry to
You
get
all
sick of
have
it
made
myself.
me agree with Jabba.
But what you call Ethan's just writing from his personal experience without actually making this like a self-insert. Do you know what I mean? Like, and by making references to things that the reader can like pick out is the best way to do it. Otherwise, he's just going to write CyberFrog as him, and then we're all going to be like, well, this is just Ethan. You know what I mean? So...
Well, it kind of is,
That's
which is
what
fine.
he's doing, though.
He's
Yeah.
Frogman.
It
Yeah,
is hit on several levels.
that's
But
you got to be okay with that. But that's
CyberFrog
fair.
isn't Ethan. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not Ethan's
You're doing magical
personality. It's-
things.
One-to-one
I'm
on
agreeing with Twitless tonight. I'm agreeing with Matt C. These are things that never happen on the feed.
You've broken the seventh seal of the apocalypse. Here we go.
Are you going to tell me that CyberFrog acts and speaks just like Ethan?
A
Oh
lot.
my God,
yeah.
man. You be more
Direct
pedantic.
lines. Direct
No.
lines. Quoted.
No, he's a totally different character.
Oh,
The
come
guy,
on.
he's got a Philly. Oh, okay, go ahead.
You're right. He's a frog. Ethan's not a
Yeah.
frog. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
we're
Whatever.
totally
Now
different.
you guys are
Can we do one more thing with this before we leave it, before it's buried in the ground and Jabba burns this whole place down? It's that okay, so just let's touch on the lore, like, because this is kind of here. CyberFrog is the answer against originally it was let's make comics for everyone, and that's the response to where the mainstream and where the reactionary self-publishing market was going, where they were saying you either got to make books for leftists or make books for conservatives that appeal to what they where they see themselves, like pick a team and give them what they want to see, right? And early on Ethan's voice was like his team was let's make books for absolutely everyone, including leftists and conservatives, and that's how we're gonna answer the Vespus invasion, by actually doing what we said we were gonna do in the mainstream, which is make comics for everybody, for the mainstream. Now what he's been doing in these two issues, it's interesting. Like this isn't me just like, this isn't black and white. It's just interesting. But he is framing a perspective. It's very ground level. It's autobiographical, but he is presenting us versus them, and it's clear who the them is. Like half of the there's a couple pages just written by Heather Antis.
Yeah, but that doesn't make CyberFrog an exact stand-in for like, you know what I mean? Like we've seen writers literally make a self-insert where the character is them, personality and all, and that's not the case here. So everything else has to kind of feed into that.
I need to take Darkin back to school and tell him what an allegory is.
I'm saying that
I'm past the allegory part, Twillis. I'm talking about like literally just making this like.
See
like
me after class.
No,
you guys literally said like this was like a self-insert, and it's clearly not.
No. We're not using that word. We're not using that word. What we're saying, like, and I already moved the ball. So goalpost is moved. You're gonna have, if you want to shoot a goal, you're gonna have to shoot it down the field. What we're going at is it's okay to make political comics, I think, and I think that's interesting. I think it's okay. I was in Team Ethan's camp when it was like, okay, I don't want to see Trump books. He's not really making a Trump book, even though it's a very political book and intended to be so.
So for those keeping score, what Matt just set up was a metaphor. Just to keep everybody on the same plane.
Oh, you pretentious son of a bitch!
It's an anti.
Sake of everybody listening, just stop, please.
It's an anti-SJW book, which means it's which is kind of, that's kind of cool. Like the way he squares the circle is because it's so ground level and it's so obviously coming from his personal life experiences. It doesn't feel as preachy to me, at least, as like a Doug TenNapel or other writers who have this like they have this cosmic view where they tell you how like it doesn't come off as autobiographical. It comes off as like they actually know how the hearts and minds of every man is going. Ethan is only like he's got himself, he's got a gorgeous new wife, he's got a kid with her, he's got stepkids, he's got an amazing house in the Pine Barrens, and that's where he's writing from. And so it doesn't feel
Right.
like preaching, but it's heavy on the allegory and metaphor.
I will say that to be fair to that whole like this is anti-SJW, but let's not do political books. He's always said everybody should make comic books except for SJW. So the SJWs have always been a point of contention for Ethan. So like he says, liberals can make books, conservatives can make books. Religious people can make books, but fuck the SJWs. So he's holding true to form, just to be fair.
That's fair.
Aviator Surge is correct. You guys are overthinking it. These are just Easter eggs for fun for the people that know.
Yeah, exactly. That's why like the only one that really like kind of like made me pause was the sorry that happened to you. Sorry that happened to you. Sorry that happened to you.
Well, last week Ethan asked us to keep an eye out for his symbolism. If you recall, he asked us to keep an eye out for his symbolism. He explained
human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
For the
Thank
record,
you for interrupting
that's part
Cider.
of this. No
Sorry.
More of that.
okay.
Go ahead, Cider. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just explaining that last week, before we began this road here, Ethan asked us to keep an eye out for his symbolism and for his allegory and the depth that he was putting into the story. That was one of the things that he appreciated about the last one, is that we were looking for those and discovered those. So if we're talking about them this one, it's because he asked us to last week.
And some of us got called a genius for noticing.
Message received.
It's fine. I'm not. I'm just a weirdo in Maine that poops in a bag. Let's not get excited.
Vicky just clipped that.
I hope so. Maybe Finacho can make a song out of it. That'd be great.
Well, technically, I mean, we've got the bucket in the back room. So everybody that did anything in the back, you did your business in a bucket, bag. It's all the same.
That wasn't a bucket, that was the sink.
We actually got the key to we as artists got the key to the laboratory because I told you got to put your green room demands in writing.
Yeah,
we got ice.
After this stream, we're gonna straighten out the contract association because I don't understand why Dark Gift got cookies.
Yeah, I got cookies. We got ice.
It sounds like you guys want to give your final thoughts, is what you're saying.
Bowl full of green Skittles. I got it all.
That's your final thought, Dark Gift. Bowl full of
Dark
Skittles.
Gift wouldn't go on stage without a champagne glass of brown M&Ms.
This is true.
And a soy bomb.
Give us your final thoughts, Dark Gift.
I think I'm probably the only one that really had like no issue with this book. So
there's a shack. How's the fence doing today? Is it stable? Any windage?
I think he's off that fence. He's a simp.
Hey,
right?
Stop making fun of Dark Gift and let him finish his final thought.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I think this was like I said, like I mean, you shouldn't have to take Blood Honey out of the equation, but this is like a perfect setup, book one. The art's on point. I thought the story flowed. I was actually intrigued by the community storyline. I got the reference in the beginning. I know you said it was weak, Aldous, but I got the reference in the beginning where he shoots CyberFrog and they go, "Hey, you forgot your glasses." Like I thought that was kind of funny. And then to kind of see, like at first you kind of think maybe that's just a joke, but then you kind of see the buildup of his like behind the scene scheming with that chick, and then the whole pig scene and everything, and then he screws up again. Like you could kind of you get the I was with it the whole way, and I can see why he didn't want us to touch on the last few pages because that was really intense. So I'm kind of psyched for this book.
Thanks, Dark Gift. I hate to say this, but Twitless, give us your final thoughts.
Oh God, I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
I'm gonna invoke executive privilege. I want to go last.
No, Cider is going last.
Okay, fine. I'll go second to last.
Fine, Natsy, give us your thoughts.
Oh gosh, It was even more of a political book than the first one, but I'm more okay with that now, where I've read different writers in this sector do political books, and it's been less successful. And the art was better than, like, even better than before, and I had a lot of positive things to say last time. I think just it would being slower, you know, it was trade-off. So he took slower time to develop characters, but that just kind of meant that, you know, we got a green scene for 16 pages. You know, that's not something I'm blaming Ethan for. So it was fantastic.
If you can convince well-read, TJ. Aldous, final thoughts.
Yeah, I thought the story was much more mature. I saw growth on the writing side. I saw a little bit of a step back in the artistic side. I thought the art was a little bit of a dial back, and that bothered me. Obviously, we waited a year longer for this book than we waited for the previous one, and I don't see where it went. Obviously, there's other factors involved in that, but it doesn't matter what I say here. I'm going to be labeled as a Vicky simp for saying I'd like to see these books quicker, but I'd like to see these books quicker. There's certainly a loss of interest, at least on my part, for the delay. And I don't see it invested in what I saw. The copy that we were given, I'm assuming also is a pre-pub or of some sort, because there were some issues with the lettering. There was issues with the consistency from page to page in the dialogue structure of the CyberFrog style of dialogue that has been established up to this point. So I'm making the assumption that the final product won't look like what we were given by Ethan, and that was awesome of Ethan to give us a preview.
I think it was because that first page has like the...
Yeah, well, there's multiple pages that have some have the effect and some don't have the effect on CyberFrog's dialogue. So
I just meant, like, if you look at it, you could tell it's like, I think it's like an Eric Weathers like run through, because the first page has some kind of like, it's not part of the comic. You can see it right there at the top left corner. Right. It's not part of the comic, yeah.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was an improvement on Blood Honey, but it wasn't to what I expected. Given all of the support that Ethan has and all of the avenues of benefit and for growth potential that he has with all the connections, it was just it was one of those where it's like, okay, it was a weaker second effort, but you definitely saw an effort there to improve things.
Okay, thanks. Jay Dalla?
I gave it 4 out of 4 pencils. It was pretty good.
That's all you have to say?
Yeah.
Twitless.
Thank you for that wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for all the wonderful support. It's definitely an improvement over Blood Honey. And Blood Honey's not bad. But it's really nice to see an improvement. Basically every single level, this is an improvement. Artwork, sequencing, storytelling in most areas. I like the relationships that are getting developed here. I'm interested in those. All of those things are things that get me invested and pulled into the world of the story, or the diegesis, if you want to get more technical. The allegorical level of subtext is so on the nose at times, not every time. But at times, it's so on the nose that I keep getting yanked out of the investment that I have. So what I want to see is I just want to see that dialed back. Because I think the Vespis I think we can focus on how much of an existential threat they are and not pull in as much of, this is how people on Twitter cancel you. Because that is what I'm getting from them. And that's just not nearly as compelling of an existential threat to me. And CyberFrog, the series, becoming more and more of a stand-in for elements of the culture war is something I less want to see. Having references to that is fine. I'm not saying you can't have that, but there were moments it was just too much. So just dial that back.
I hope he doubles down next to
he just starts putting the names on them.
I hope he actually just calls you out by name.
Why is this
Cider.
character named
Twitless,
Twitless?
Twitless is going to be an allegory in Dark Harvest.
Cider,
Although I
Cider,
will
give
say
us-
the
gonna get
fence sitter
eaten.
thing I took a little offense to. I got to say it.
I look
Okay, give us.
I
the
look forward to the
definitive
waterboarding sequence of the professor in Dark Harvest. That's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, before I get eaten by the bugs. Yeah, all right.
Now that the chatter is finished, Cider, you can do it.
I think that this is an 8 out of 10 for me. This came a very long way. It has a very solid narrative to it, despite its, connections to the real world that kind of smack a little too hard sometimes. And I also, this sounds really weird, okay, but I've always wanted to be a dad. Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a dad.
Jesus.
And so the relationship between Lily and CyberFrog and seeing her father's, that painted picture with her father's hand and painted up on a picture and her hand underneath it. And the fact that it's green. And then she cries out to CyberFrog, calling him dad when she's being taken away. That hit me. That hit me really, really hard. I loved every minute of CyberFrog and Lily, the little Calvin and Hobbes adventures they were having, especially CyberFrog popping up out of the lake holding 2 fish. That was straight out of Gimli.
Yeah,
That's straight out of Studio Ghibli.
sure thing, man.
It was beautiful.
Are you
And
done now?
well,
Don't do drugs, kids. Don't do drugs.
No,
Yeah.
I got it. I wasn't gonna get all like emotional like that, but like I feel you because I'm the same way. Basically the same way, brother.
I thought you never wanted kids, Dark Gift. Wow.
No, I
So-
always wanted kids. I just didn't want to get married.
it just hit
Oh.
me, man. It hit me in the feels, and it won me over in
Yeah.
the book. That's what won it for me. That's the 8 out of 10 for me. Is that really good? Maybe not father, maybe not stepfather, but father-like figure for Lily, and her being a daughter-like figure for CyberFrog.
It's really
That
well
is
done.
really well done.
And
Really
if
well done.
it wasn't an allegory, it wouldn't have hit as hard because the guy behind that pencil and his story and about the family he now has. And now it's like a double whammy, It's not just a character on a comic book page.
You feel
It's
some
like-
lived experience there, absolutely.
yeah. So kudos to him.
Congratulations, everyone.
27 kids.
There you
We got
go,
through
Cider.
the
Oh.
Good
Red
job,
Planet
Bob.
review.
all that to land there. That was inevitable.
Hmm.
It's like we waited for years for that to hit it.
It's a story about fathers.
Why
Well,
not?
everyone, hopefully you all survived the backlash after the review.
Yeah.
I send you forward to weather all those storms. So
Hooray.
enjoy. Moonshine, did you want to give a wrap-up thought?
I have not read it because I just like reading PDF, so it would be unfair if I did that.
Okay. Ethan wants the link, so we'll prolong things, and I'll postpone Unzipped. Be great to hear his thoughts on some of the thoughts offered here. Give him a chance to retort, to scold, to harangue.
To be executed live on air. I don't know if YouTube allows
I
that.
can't wait. Get the popcorn ready.
Oh, gonna have a Twitless cooking.
Be gentle.
Oh,
that
Jabba
Twitless.
told you in the stream, so I
bring-
guess
bring-
we have
bring
to
the-
finish it.
Both barrels.
No, yeah,
We're
better
gonna
to be
be-
honest. We tried to be honest. Please be honest with us.
Narwhal?
Hey, no.
Hey, what's up, Norwell?
Gonna spit roast the Twitless tonight.
Oh my god!
No, I'm not. I'm not even gonna watch.
Wait,
I'll turn
wait.
around and wear a blindfold thing.
How did that come
Yeah.
out? Wait a second.
At least take it to the green room, Well Red. You know that's where that stuff goes.
That's all moonshine and well read territory.
Exactly. All right, everybody. So let the festivities begin. Here's Ethan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I enjoyed the living hell out of that. That was fantastic. I was drawing the whole time and just like, yes.
Yes, those bastards.
Looking forward to it. I mean, you know what's sad? Like, I'm such a loser. Like, I looked forward to this all week. I couldn't wait.
Nice.
Whenever I was like waiting for somebody to read this book and review it, and I really appreciate you guys. So thanks for it, and thanks for the quality of those thoughts and comments. You're all wrong about all of your assumptions out there right now. But yes, thank you very much. Any questions for me, by the way? Like any comments directly at me or no?
Sure, I'll ask. Is Ava Comicsgate?
No,
Lily.
Okay, Lily. Sorry, I got him mixed up.
not everything is 1-to-1. And I obviously shouldn't tell you directly what everything symbolizes, but yes, of course, the Vespis are SJWs. No, it's not about cancel culture. It's about the complete destruction of our society, civilization, and art, which is what they've done. I mean, shutting you up about it is certainly cancel culture. Stinging you through the head, doing all of those things, that's cancel culture. But to me, like, the thrust of this book is very much like Les Miserables, where, what is CyberFrog's one sin here? He killed one Vespis in self-defense. And for that, he's going to be punished severely when these creatures have torn the entire planet apart and killed 90% of humanity. And so, that's what this book really is kind of about. It's like you've got one Vespis who goes rogue, kills somebody in the community. He's not supposed to do that. You'll find more stuff about that, like in future installments. But CyberFrog killing that one Vespis and it really beating the shit out of him to do it, because these things are tough and he's not powered. That is why the rest of the stuff that you get to at the end happens. To answer like a couple of questions, the reason why it's so localized is because Chelsea is gone. So it's almost as though, listen, we're tapped into the world right now because we have the internet. We're aware of what's going on at all times because we have television, we have the internet. We know what's going on in France. We know what's going on in Africa. We know about all these things. Chelsea represents the internet, his connection to the world. Chelsea in Blood Honey is actually saying all living things on Earth are shuddering right now. Something terrible is about to happen. And that's because that's the connection that Chelsea provides to CyberFrog. She actually can anticipate the reaction of like all living things, insects, fish, birds. They're all upset about, what's coming. That's all gone now. So CyberFrog living in the woods in New Jersey and just being completely shut off. We don't know I haven't shown you what the rest of the world looks like yet. Is it's a kind of a response to the fact that all communication has been shut down now. And when you're in a situation like that, really, what do you focus on now? How do you begin to rebuild? How do you begin to rebuild like a world that's been completely subverted by evil?
So is the third book going to be drastically different? Like I had mentioned, like this is kind of the lull before the excitement. You got a literally story building, like you just said, without the internet. So for Anthony was saying earlier, well, this is a representation of what everyone would essentially be doing. So is it going to stay in Jersey in the third one? Or is that going to be like?
Well, just remember the first 4 issues are the first CyberFrog movie. So if there were like a series of CyberFrog movies, the first 4 issues would be that contained movie, and it would take a lot to kind of get CyberFrog out of where he is right now. So just stay tuned. I think next issue is really the culmination of his hero's journey. It is an opportunity to show just how committed he is to this cause. And right now his cause is this little family. Again, I think he would be satisfied. Like he knows he failed. He knows he flopped. He knows that this is all his fault. He says it, and he's just like, he sits down and goes, but is this okay? Like, is this a world that I can accept? Can I accept my failure and the consequences of it? And when he looks around and sees people playing and eating and having a good time, that's okay. It's not until his best friend, Heather Swain, who has previously in all of the other books expressed to him and expressed to us that she's not afraid of anything. She said that on the bus when she was going to Camden. She's an individual who lacks that kind of fear anymore because he's in her life. He's there to protect her. He's made her feel brave, even though she's somebody who, obviously has been very troubled in her life before. And when she turns to him and confesses that she has been, what her confession to him, which I guess I won't spoil here, and says that to him, like, he realizes that, he has completely and utterly failed and must try to change things. And so that's what the book is really kind of all about. To me, by the way, Vespis, the SJWs make great villains. I love the irony of the fact that they've been putting Donald Trump's dialogue in the mouth of like MODOK and Red Skull. Fuck you, I'm doing it to you too. So yeah, I'm aware, guys. It's
fine to do it. It's just
a little heavy-handed. I get it, but that's who these creatures are. That is the arrogance of them, and to realize that they have that kind of diabolical intelligence and arrogance and they're cry bullies in a way, makes them fully realized villains. It's wonderful. I mean, because these people are villains in my perspective. So, I wanted to clue you guys in right away about who they are and what they're about. So some of you will recognize some of their dialogue and the way that they talk and interact with each other. They're pieces of shit. But other people who are not kind of clued into our whole story might miss that, but still be irritated by it. And I think that's irritated by the disgusting self-regard and pompousness of their dialogue.
I still want the community to be, the Pine Barrens community to be CG, and there's this tension about whether or not it's okay to just survive out here in this corner of the internet, or do we got to take the fight back to them and we actually got to defeat this we're not just here to get through another day. We actually want to reverse the tide.
Well, Matt, you have, in order to do that, you have to accept that you're Iron Age. That's just
well, and I gotta buy CyberFrog 3.
Absolutely, obviously.
So
yeah, I mean the thing is, like, maybe they are. I mean, a lot of the other characters in the book, just understanding that the Vespis are kind of being modeled on social justice warriors, their attitudes, like the radical left and their destructive influence on society. That's about the only thing that really you're going to unlock, and that's definitive. Like, what does CyberFrog represent? Who's Lily? Who's Heather? Who's Heather's husband? Who are these characters? What do they represent? What does the community represent? What is Philadelphia? Decide for yourself. I love Cider just saying, Lily represents the child that I wish that I had and the opportunity to be a father. Fucking awesome. That's great. That's totally awesome. And you want other people to sort of decide for themselves what this all means. But yes, the Vespis are SJWs. Of course they are. We have every opportunity to do that, to tell a story that's a lot like Invasion of the Body Snatchers in a way. We should be doing stuff like that. I love it.
Now, can I ask you another question about this community situation?
Yes.
Is this the way I read this whole interaction with them was that this is CyberFrog's place to go after the battle. Once the Vespis have been absconded with, this is where he's like, this is his home. These are his people. This is his family. Is that what you're kind of putting roots down by introducing these people and how they respond to CyberFrog here?
Well, I mean, listen, what does Chelsea say to Salamandroid? Like, when he's first born, she says, "There's my heart and there's you, and I know of no difference. Family is where home is." So it's not that this is our place in the woods and all these. Look, if these people eventually become CyberFrog's family, then the woods would be his home. But Heather is his family, as he tells little, Lily. She says, "Do you have any family?" He's like, "Well, I got a mom who's a spaceship. I got a little brother. And I've got your mother, and now maybe you, if you want to be my family too." So that's, it is all about, like, home is where your family is. If Heather were to leave, he would follow Heather. And that's kind of the way it is. But I think that, you're going to find out a bunch of stuff. The soy bomb thing, is going to be explained in greater detail. What that's all about, why why humanity fell so easily to these things. We're going to get into some more big, broad sort of sci-fi elements to this story that go kind of outside of directly like this little family here of CyberFrog, Heather, and Lily. But that's probably going to mostly be in actually Salamandroid Death Sting. A lot of stuff about that in there. But the next, like book 5, will begin to approach the larger story of how these things operate, where everybody is, why Bill Clinton was even in the first book, because he's in the 5th book, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
I think I'm the only one that
Witless has a question, Dark Gift.
Oh no,
really
let
likes-
DG say what he says from the fence. Let's go.
No, I think I'm off the fence on this. I actually like the locality, like the close locality of just the community, whereas like everybody else was kind of hoping it branched out more. Like everybody's making.
I like the community as well.
Yeah, I think which was the two. Everybody's making references to The Last of Us, but I never played the game or saw that. But if I had to compare it, I like Walking Dead started off as like this small group that then kind of built outwards over the course of the series, whether it be the comics or the TV. And I feel like that's playing out here, and I kind of like that direction. So, yeah. Yeah,
I mean the community is it's being led by a fellow who is the very definition of myopic. And that's why in 1998 when you first meet Colin, his son says he needs glasses, but he never wears them, and that's why he keeps making mistakes. And then you just see that carry on. He's too vain to wear his glasses in a way. And so he keeps fucking up things that require clear eyesight. It's like, let me take a moment and try to, figure out what's going on here with this green guy who looks like Heather Swain's tattoo. Instead, I'm just going to fire, even though he instructs all of his men, to just play it cool, conserve ammunition. No, he can't do that. He won't follow his own advice. He slaughters the pig sequence. It's like that's something that literally, if he'd had his glasses on, he would have discerned that, that was the wrong situation for him.
It's Captain Cummings, isn't it? I know it's Captain Cummings.
It's so many different people. It's not a one-to-one with anything, but it's just based on a personality type. Yeah, and in a way, it's me too. I mean, all of these characters have elements of me in them, including CyberFrog, Heather, Lily. It's like they all have to do with some aspect of my life, or something like that. So I wouldn't, saying the fence sitter line has nothing to do with you, Dark Gift. It's just sorry to say, yeah, not attacking you fellas.
Yeah. Ethan, if I may, I'm just curious. You've got, this is definitely an improvement over Blood Honey. We all agreed on that.
Thank you.
But moving forward with this year, you've got Rainbow Brute you have to draw, and you've got CyberFrog 3. One of the big criticisms for the impetuous behind CyberFrog is the delay in the years between.
Right.
And you've got a lot of criticism on that. But when you talk about it, are you looking to push harder and make it so it's less of a delay on the next issue? So when we're talking Red Harvest, are we looking at 2 years? Are we looking at a year? What's your, when you look at the calendar and what you can produce, can we get Rainbow the Brute this year and then Red Harvest in the following year?
Red Extermination, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Red Extermination. I apologize.
Right, yeah. Rainbow the Brute is already 1/3 of the way drawn, and I will have that finished and beginning fulfillment by Christmas. I believe that's a reasonable schedule. You never like really factor in production time and like printing to things. You feel as an artist like as soon as it's done, it's going to go out. So I'd love to say August, it's going to go out. More realistically, especially after the printing delays of Rekt Planet and the binding and everything, this book was ready to go in July, but it ended up not even coming out until now. So there's always a problem. Rainbow the Brute should be shipping in by Christmas, and Red Extermination, which is 48 pages, will be finished being drawn in December. So it's a 48-page book. I think one of the things about Rekt Planet that made it difficult was I had like 4 or 5 different other projects that I was working on and fulfilling in between. And fulfillment is a bear. The other thing is, just creatively speaking, I kind of created a vehicle here, and I kind of knew where it was going, but it was a little bit stuck in the mud. And so Rekt Planet was a lot of, well, here's where I want to go. Here's what the story's going to be. And I just need to figure out how to piece all of these ideas together into a narrative that gets the vehicle out of the mud and moving. And I'm not a writer. I mean, I am. Understand. I think I'm going to be a hell of a writer. But I'm not a skilled writer. This is only the second thing I've ever written. And it took a while for me to get it together. And I would have these things. I don't know if other writers do this. I don't know what it's like to be a writer. I've been an artist my whole life working with other writers, but I'd say, well, this piece is going to attach to this piece here. And there's got to be a narrative reason why these things come together, and it's got to be clear, concise, clean. The characters' motivations have to be the same. I know who all of these characters are. Why would she do this? And it would take a while, but I'd be just, mowing the lawn or something. And just kidding, I don't mow my own lawn. And it would finally just occur to me. It would just hit me, and that might take a week for that question to be answered. Narwhal.
Narwhal says Ethan's got what it takes to be a good writer is that you gotta be fucking based.
That was almost a sentence.
Just I know.
Wow,
is that the real Narwhal? He is a writer. And I was like borderline illiterate. But no, piecing together a story and piecing together, this thing, which I think I've built pretty successfully now. Now I think I would be able to, if I wanted to, just based on where we are, I could write spinoffs for people to do. Dark Harvest is 10 pages of, here's a little something to keep you satiated while you're waiting for Red Extermination. And I think people are like, I wish there was something in between, some kind of continuation of this story. Now I can't do it. I can't do the 20-page books because every 2 months or so, because fulfillment would kill us. It would just kill us. It's not a matter of getting the books done. It's a matter of fulfillment being such a bear. When CyberFrog 2 sold 16,000 copies total, or 16,000 backers. That's the packages. It sold far more copies than that. If we had to just fulfill every 2 months, we'd never get anything done anyway. So the idea is just to build up enough of a story so that fulfillment only happens once. There's some anticipation for it as well. But 3 years is obviously from March 15th, 2020, which is when I launched the campaign, to nearly March 15th, 2023. It's too long, guys. I completely bow. I'm embarrassed about it. I should have kept the book to 48 pages, and I should have gotten it out, within a year and a half. But
so do you think with where your price point is at $25 for the book with all the extras, that's a valid point then that you can hit with number 3 for what, a year, 2 years? I mean, what's the outlook?
I got to do it, Aldous, because I got a family to feed, and it can't just be about me. I'm really satisfied with this book. I feel like this book was very much about my vanity and just getting it right this time and doing a better book than Blood Honey. And so people would just have to acknowledge that the story's good. There's a good story coming up.
No, for sure. You definitely improved on Blood Honey. I think we all, everybody on panel agreed with that for sure, sir.
So
can you get it done in 48
I'm curious
pages,
on your flow, because Rainbow the Brute's out there. You've got to finish that. You're saying it's a third done. Mm-hmm. I'm just for everybody out there, that the biggest criticism against this, and I'm a fan. I back the Honeycomb box.
Thank you.
I'm just looking to negate, head off all the fucking criticism, man. Are we looking at 18 months or a year, 2 years? What's the outlook for a release?
Well, like I said, it's 48 pages, and the thing is, pretty much together now. The story is together. There won't be the kind of delays that there were last time.
Let me just say, the biggest criticism is not the delivery. I think the biggest it's not a real thing. It's 70 pages.
By all means, don't let them answer the question.
there's another book, and then so I feel like if you get this next book out, and the last two have essentially been 70 some odd pages, 60 some odd pages, 48 pages is you're cutting out quite a bit. Do you feel like it would be appropriate to have the next campaign only be 48 pages? You know what I mean? Like, regardless of the arguments of delivery dates and how long it took.
Well, I mean, that's how long the story is. So, I mean, that, you know, the next book is much more visceral and to the point. There's not as much to introduce. There's less to establish. There's a really bad problem that needs to be solved. Several of them. So you're going to get that. You're going to get this 10 pages of extra lore that explains what Lily saw when she went into the cave, which is going to be horrifying. You know, and you're going to get to see, you know, where they took her and all this stuff. You're going to get that's basically what Red Harvest is. Dark Harvest. I'm sorry. Now I'm doing it. Dark Harvest. You'll find out what the Dark Harvest is.
It's Vicky. It's Vicky and Dean's lair, isn't it? Anne was Vicky the whole time. We called it in the back room. Anyway, continue.
You think Anne O'Malley is Vicky?
Yeah, of course. Inside CG, but
it's so
undermining it the whole time.
Anne had hair.
Yeah.
She's the goth chick, of course. Oh, come on.
She's a witch.
Let's see those ankles.
Oh, shit.
So Twitless, you had a question?
I had a comment and a question. So I just wanted to reiterate, I'm totally fine with, taking the piss on the SJWs. That's cool.
Thank God.
I just
Thank
totally,
God you're okay.
yeah, I'm totally fine with it. I just personally, I just felt it was a bit heavy-handed, and dialing it back would make me more invested.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Let me just say this about that real quick. Wasn't it a surprise when they started talking and you were like, holy shit? Because I mean, that the whole thing about it is that as soon as they start talking and you realize everything that you've seen them do up until this point, which seemed alien and weird, was all shit that they do on Twitter. I mean, holding up CyberFrog's one sin the way that they did to create public outrage the way that they did. It seemed alien and foreign until you started to hear them talk and you're like, oh, fuck. I mean, to me, like that made me laugh when I started to do it. It still makes me laugh. I love that I, was able to pull dialogue straight from a very familiar situation and villainize it.
It made me laugh too.
Yeah,
it didn't bother me.
It was a miss for me. I gotta call it how I see it.
Are you an SJW Twitless? Did I hurt your feelings?
You're right. You caught me. I have
Double down next time,
exposed.
EBS.
I'm going to, dude. This isn't changing because Twitless doesn't like it. It's gonna get worse.
The hive mentality of the Vespas really irks academia, and Twitless having a vein in academia.
Well, in Twitless's defense,
they're strumming that string a little bit, and
if it doesn't work when the SJWs do it and it's a bad writing tool or mechanism, then maybe the reverse is true. Is that
that's kind of that's a little where I'm going with this. And okay, and the only point I'm trying to make here is the fact that what it did is it pulled me out of the story a bit. I'm not saying like don't make references or make the symbolism. I just think that it got too on the nose.
Well, Twitless, it isn't just a frog versus alien hornet story after all. I'm sorry that took you out of the story, but there's something a little bit more broad. There's something more being said here, and I think it's important because nobody else is saying it in comics.
I disagree.
Nobody else is saying it in the movies.
That's a misunderstanding. I'm sorry. That's a misunderstanding. I think of my point. My point is that I think that going as it's a continuum, not a binary. A binary would be do this, don't do this. That's not what I said. What I said is that on the scale of doing what you want to do, which I'm behind, I think that there's a certain level that you reach where it's like, that's too much spice. Dial it down, the spice a little bit.
Not at all.
It still has this flavor.
I thought it was actually quite clever to have them talking in the beginning, and like I had said,
they talk like bitchy Valley girls. It's hilarious.
Yeah, they're talking, and then at the end, you hear what they're at. You see what they're actually saying, and you're like, "Oh my god, they're just bitching bees." You know what I mean? Like,
they're pieces of shit Valley girl bitches. Just like
that happened to you.
Yeah.
cracked me up.
Cry
I
bully,
was-
like fake victims. You know,
Just because you
I love
imagine,
it.
like, when you're if you thought it was serious, you're like, oh, what are these guys? What are they saying? And then at the end, you're like, oh, fucking what? So
Yeah.
it fit with CyberFrog saying home skillet. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is that type of book.
I think it would
I
fit
hear what you're
better
saying,
if
Twilis,
one
but
of
you're
them
like you're
at
pretending
least
like
spoke
these
like
are frogs
Purpose.
and
Then it'd be
cybernetic
perfect.
kitty cats. You know what I mean? Like, that's how, you know.
The home skillet thing is interesting because I put that in there deliberately. I went and I actually like Google searched 90s dialogue, like 90s slang that is no longer in use. Because, you know, and because CyberFrog would just say dude and man and, you know, stuff that is timeless in terms of the way he talks. But saying home skillet, like nobody said that since 1995. You know what I mean? Like it's something that's somebody who's been sleeping for 20 years might say in 2018 because he hasn't changed. He's still in the 90s.
Right. Well, talking about that a little bit, could you expound upon you made two literary references in some of the dialogue within the book. You referenced I'm assuming William S. Lind and Martin Van Kremfeld.
Mhm.
With fourth generational warfare and the transformational warfare with one line, but it was interesting in how you weaved that line in. And do you want to talk? Could you expound upon that a little bit? Was that just kind of like, was that side research that you just like, who's
Mhm.
talking about where modern warfare is going? And you wanted to draw that in? Does that have any other social context? Where were you going with
So
that?
you're going to need to know a whole lot more about who Scorpion is before you can understand where that is. I'm basically giving you a little tell about what he's been up to. Remember, Scorpion's been awake for all the 20 years that, you know, CyberFrog's been asleep. So how did he survive? What is he up to? And so you will see that he's a very sophisticated and calculating gentleman.
Yeah, I gotta say, I thought that moment was the one moment that I personally really keyed in on. It was really interesting that you drew those two references in on that
Mhm.
character, and for just one panel with the dialogue as stacked as it was, I thought it could have been maybe thinned down a little bit. But man, I really enjoyed that, and I gotta compliment you
thanks.
on that. It was great to see those references within that for what I think you're trying to do. And I
Mhm.
look forward to seeing how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, all of these characters need to be distinct from each other so that, you know, when Lily is talking, when Heather's talking, when Colin is talking, or any one of the survivors, they're all unique characters that have their own intelligence level, you know, their own sort of wants, needs, goals, you know,
So I
all
wanted
that
to,
stuff.
if I could,
Visually, I liked the changes to Scorpion too.
As opposed to like the old 90s version of him, you mean?
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
too. Sucked. The old 90s version sucked.
So I wanted to ask a question about, without getting into any plot details at all regarding Soy Bomb. I wanted to
Mhm.
ask a question regarding the personal side of it.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like Soy Bomb was not just a story thing. It seemed like personally to you as a creator, as a person, that moment represented something very distinct in the destruction of culture and society. So I wanted to just ask you if you could maybe speak a little bit more about, again, not the story, because I understand that that's tied into things that would get into spoilers, but for you personally, why was it that moment? Like, were you watching the Grammys at that point? Like, what was it about that moment that was like, wow, this is an important cultural moment that you saw as indicative of why is it that moment?
What
Well,
does Aldos think? What do you think?
Uh,
Why do you think I chose that?
Okay, as a huge Bob Dylan fan, I
Mhm.
will tell you that moment was very impactful for multiple reasons. The primary is that was one of the first times that Bob Dylan had performed anything after he had a pericardial infection. It was a huge moment. Everybody thought Bob was going to die, and he came back and he didn't, and he killed it. And Lovesick is a very interesting song off of Time Out of Mind. Time Out of Mind as an album in and of itself has a lot of metaphorical references, much more so than even Blood on the Tracks, which is the story of his divorce. And if you want to reference Jacob Dylan talks about, Blood on the Tracks being his parents talking. It's interesting that Ethan's always picked that moment and that particular scene, because I think you've got multiple avenues running through that allegorically, which really play into a lot of the stuff that you referenced for both Blood Honey and Rekt Planet. But I'd love to hear what Ethan actually has to say for why.
Yeah, I was going to say, thank you, Aldous, for answering that question.
No, I just wanted to hear like what you guys. Well,
no, I mean, I'm a Dylan fan, man. I got to answer that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say yet, but I will say that all the answers to this, somebody actually said to me, I think on Kiwi Farms, they were just like, we have nukes, we have a military. Like, surely the United States by itself would go to war with the Vespus, and there would have been a much bigger battle between, you know, our military and these alien invaders. I mean, you know, it's in the book. It's in 1998. You know, Heather says something when she's leaving. She's like, I watched everybody just lay down and be subsumed. I mean, essentially, I just watched everybody just like nobody seemed to want to survive anymore. And she got into a police car. She drove away, and she went into the wilderness, and that's where she found Colin. And the reason why she went with him is because she saw him killing a Vespus who was tangled in the trees, chopped him up. Come with me. So, you know, the idea is that essentially not everybody wants to fight. And you know, at some point, there are some messages that are being sent to people, to us every day that encourage us to just lay down what we know is right and just allow ourselves to also be taken over.
So would you say that moment for you, like at that moment, was like a formative one when you saw that, and that was like, you know, was that the first time you noticed those cultural, societal things happening, or was that just a very?
Do you want me to spoil it for you, Twillis?
No. I'm asking you personally.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much. It was just weird. Like, what was it? What the hell was it? Like, you lived through the late 80s and the early 90s, you know, all the way up to that moment, and you just kind of go, there were so many incidents like this. Like, what's the frequency, Kenneth? You know, there's so many weird moments like that happen that are just inexplicable unless they were a signal to an alien conquering force that we are weakening and we're ready to lay down and become like, you know, right. That's essentially. The interesting thing is it just says soy bomb. I mean, the fact that soy has a different meaning today, you know, now than it did in 1998 is great. I mean, that's just a fascinating little bit of but no, it's just, what the hell was that? That was really, really strange. And the guy who did it couldn't even tell you what it was, really. He was high out of his mind on drugs.
Right.
So, you know, what was it? It was basically a signal saying, we're receiving your signal. We're ready now. And that's what it is. And the reason why I chose it was because it was so very strange, and it did occur right before the date that I'd chosen would be the Vespus invasion.
Okay.
That's all.
And I guess and everyone on stage was kind of normalizing it, right? Just like in your story world, everyone has already kind of given up. They're okay with even those events happening. So they're already laying down for the best.
By soy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So I mean, there's a point where, you know, look, you know, could we fight back? Yeah, but would we? You know, it's like, are we? And you know, that's a lot about what the story's about. And you know, you've even got CyberFrog in the woods talking to these survivors and saying, you've decided not to fight. Is that right? Yeah, we don't want to fight. Fuck that. Like, we're fine here. Or, you know, we're in hiding. You know, I mean, that's that's one of the big themes of the book.
So now,
go ahead, Matt.
Just quickly. So now you've laid so much track with. Maybe we can set aside this word allegory because it's pretty contentious on this panel.
Please.
That sucks.
But what we're learning a lot about our current year. We're learning about the situation in which we find ourselves in America through CyberFrog, through reading these books. So now I'm wondering where you're going to take us if you have an answer, you know, because we're seeing the problem's bigger than we thought. That was issue 1. Issue 2 is maybe survival isn't enough. and maybe we actually have a responsibility to each other and ourselves to do more than just survive. So what are we going to do? And that's a big thing on your shoulders, to be telling a story that has multiple meanings, where you're going to solve something this cosmic. Anyway, I'm sure you're going to tackle that and tackle it well, but that's a big asking the question is, maybe that's easy. You did it, but now you got to answer it. So we're looking forward to that.
I can't wait to show you guys. I can't wait. But like CyberFrog says, where do you start? Where, seriously, when things are this bad, where do you start, Cider, as a man? What is your, where do you start to clean up cultural rot? Like, where do you begin?
You begin by starting a family, raising that family in complete 180-degree opposite of what this insane cancer culture is. And
now you're starting to understand now you're starting to understand what Lily represents.
Find a good woman, have kids, man. That's how you fight the culture war. You don't do anything else. That's step one. For sure.
So these are things I love writing, and I'm looking forward to everybody reading this. These are realizations that I would have while eating edibles and sitting out by the pool in the sunshine, and they would just bring me to tears. It's like I feel, everybody's like, your stupid Battletoads ripoff, CyberFrog, whatever. What the hell is that? I would just I feel like this book is very important. It's just very, very important, and I feel inspired by it. I feel inspired to continue it. I'm going to do it as quickly as I can, because I need to get the books out so that we can continue this story and so that I can feed my family. I understand the delay was brutal. I hope that I'll get some of my backers back. I think I'll get, after people read Rekt Planet, I hope I'll get enough of them to make a nice product for issue number 3. But I understand some people are going to say, fuck this guy. He took 3 years on. I understand that. I'm going to take a beating, and plus there's a recession, but I don't care. I just need to tell this story. Very much looking forward to launching CyberFrog 3, and I hope at least you guys on the panel will support it, and everybody watching, because we have an opportunity here that we can't take lightly. We figured out a way to crowdfund comics and tell stories, and these stories can be as important or as meaningless and trivial as we want them to be. And I don't even know if that's something that art that we need to consider about value or anything like that. But this is a rare opportunity that Comicsgate provides. So people who are funding their comics, man, take that opportunity with both hands. Tell the story that you want to tell, more than anything. Don't take any of this lightly. Crowdfunding is a sacred trust. People are giving you their money to say, we trust you to make something cool. And I'm not going to let anyone down. This Rainbow the Brood is saying something similar to what CyberFrog is saying, obviously, but in a different way. I have something to say. And Comicsgate is my way to say it. It's my outlet for saying what I want to say. And it's pretty cool. And I do it with a frog and bees.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Praise Jesus.
Well, that sounds like a good place to wrap up. I definitely have more questions, but I think we'll save them for a different time, and we'll just we'll leave it on the note that there's a lot more to look forward to. CyberFrog 3 is coming up really soon, so people should pick up previous issues of CyberFrog, and stick around, because I think the best is yet to come.
Thanks for sharing it with us.
Thanks, guys. Really, I had so much fun listening to that. I was just enthralled, and the harsh criticism was great too. I overwrite sometimes. I'm going to scale that way back. So for issue 3, everything's a learning process.
Isn't Death Sing essentially the next issue? You can essentially say Salamander is Death Sing.
It's an addendum to this. I guess you could say it's a next issue. If you have questions about Scorpion, then from this, then you're going to get a lot of those questions answered in Death Sting.
Cool.
We wouldn't dig this deep if we didn't care.
I know, guys.
Sure.
Yeah.
Really
and now I gotta go get
Comes from the heart,
because now I want to know what happened in the cave.
Yeah. Oh, back that, please. It was only going to be 4 pages, and then I went, you know what? It doesn't, because I did a $20 book that was a preview of Rekt Planet, and it sold really well. People liked it. It had an original Jay Lee cover on it. It was foil, and I was like, I should do that again. It was just a 10-page preview. But then I really started to think, like, for $20, they should be getting a little bit more story. So it started out being 4 new pages, and now, fuck it, it's 10 new pages and 10 pages of Red Extermination. So you'll get 20 pages of story, 10 that you're going to get again later, but 10 that are unique to this book. So I think you'll be happy with it. That's on my Dark Harvest campaign right now.
Awesome. I'm hoping the mods are dropping the link for that. So everybody, thank you, Ethan. Thank you, panel, very much for all of your opinions. Thank you, Ethan, especially for the preview copy. It's great to have an opportunity. To get our thoughts out. So everybody.
It's your outro.
Oh, yeah. And we've got an outro. Stay tuned. Way more to come from Comics Gate. Have a good night.